Hey WealthLab 8 users, Glitch here. Today we're going to talk about what's new in WealthLab 8 Build 11. So let's get started. The first thing we added was a feature that many WealthLab 6 users have been asking for a while. We did not incorporate this into WealthLab 7 initially because we wanted to think of some ways to handle it better, basically. And we think we did that. That is the maximum risk position sizing. So let's open up a strategy and take a look at how this comes into play now for WealthLab 8. So if we look at our position sizing options, we will see a new choice here, max risk percent. So when I select this option, I can establish a maximum risk percentage. So this means that I also need to establish an initial stop loss level for the trade. If the trade hits the stop loss level, the maximum loss that will be accrued in that trade would be 10%. So what this position sizing method does is establish a position size such that if my stop loss level is hit, then the resulting loss will equal whatever percentage I establish here. So let's leave it at 10% and let's run our RSI agita on a stock. Let's say Coinbase. This one has been crashing over the past 6 months or so, so we should get some entry signals. Let's see what happens here. So we have 4 historical positions for Coinbase, and if I look at my exit signal, I could see they were all exited by the maximum risk stop. So first of all, I did not code a maximum risk exit. So this is one of the improvements in WealthLab 8. So if you somehow in your strategy, if you don't indicate what the initial stop level of the trade is for purposes of maximum risk percent, then WealthLab will establish it for you by a default indicator that's defined here in trading preferences. So we have a new section, max risk percent settings. And the first item here is the default max risk indicator. The default value here, you're free to change this indicator, but the indicator that we use initially is math ind op value. And the parameters are low, multiply, and 0.9. So what this indicator does is it takes the low price of the bar upon which the order is being signaled, and it multiplies that low by 0.9. So it results in an initial stop loss level that is 10% below the basis price of the trade. And now that we have this indicator established here, we go to the second setting here, automatically issue a stop loss order. So this is where those exits are coming from. So WealthLab is automatically issuing a stop loss order with the value based on this indicator. There is one final option here. You can cause the stop loss level to act as a trailing stop, or if you leave it unchecked, it will just use the initial stop loss level that was set when the trade was triggered. So these are the options for controlling the default and the automated stop. So let's go back to the strategy and take a look at these trades. I mean, if we said the maximum risk was 10%, then why is the first exit an 18% loss, and then the third exit is a 15% profit? What is actually going on? Well, it has to do with gaps. So if I double click on this trade, we can see that the 18% loss was a result of prices gapping down significantly. So there was a large gap down here between the close and the open. And so it looks like probably my stop loss level was like somewhere right around here. Due to the gap down, the stop loss order was actually triggered at the open, resulting in this trade in an 18% loss instead of the 10%. Likewise, if I go to this trade, which was profitable, even though the max risk stop was hit, it's because there was a significant gap down between the signal bar, which is here. So this signal bar determines the quantity of the order using the basis price, which is the closing price of this bar. So the position size is calculated as of this bar. However, there was a significant gap down. So we entered, this gap down was like 26%. So Coinbase fell heavily this day. We entered substantially lower than the basis price here. So that means the exit price is 10% below the basis price level. So the exit price is somewhere like right along here, and we could actually see when prices did finally fall to this level, it did exit at the basis price low, which resulted in this case in a profit because of the heavy gap down between the signal bar and the entry bar. So note that when you're working with max risk percent, you may not always see exits that are exactly at 10% or whatever percentage you set. Let's give it a different symbol. Let's actually give it a portfolio. Let's run it on the Dow 30 and take a look here. So we're now running on the complete Dow 30. Let's take a look at our positions. So here we are seeing a number of max risk stop exits, and most of them are close to the 10% that we would expect due to gaps. As we saw earlier, we'll rarely get exactly 10% even at this level, but most of them are close to the 10% level that we established. So that is the max risk percent position sizing reintroduced into WealthLab 8, now improved with the default max risk indicator that you can set and enable here for placement of automatic stop orders. So this allows this position sizing method to be used straight out of the gate, even in a building block strategy, where previously in WealthLab 6 that was not possible because it required you to set something in code. Now, we didn't forego that flexibility in WealthLab 8 of setting the risk stop level in code. In fact, if we go to our quick ref in user strategy base, we have a new method here. And if I type in risk, that will help me narrow this down here. So under strategy execution, we have get max risk stop. So this is a new method you can override in your C# coded strategies. And if you do so, you can return the initial stop loss level that you want to use for purposes of sizing this trade for max risk percent position sizing. So this gives you the fine-grained control you might want to have, and which was the only way possible in WealthLab 6 and prior. So I think that covers it for the max risk percent position sizing. What else do we have in build 11? Let's go back to our quick ref and let's look at our drawing functions here. So for example, draw rectangle. So if I open and run this example code, it will render a rectangle onto the chart. So here's the rectangle. You could see that the blue rectangle is drawn above the bars of the chart, so the rectangle kind of appears above the bar. You may not want that effect. You may want to draw the rectangle behind the bars. So all of the drawing methods in WealthLab 8 now have a new parameter, and it's an optional parameter, which means if we do want to use this, we have to fully fill out the other parameters of the call. So we need to give it the line style, we need to give it the pane tag, and then the final optional parameter is behind bars. So if we pass true to this, if I compile and run this again, we will see that the rectangle is now drawn behind the bars of the chart. So all of the draw and fill methods now in WealthLab 8 have this new parameter to give you more control of whether they should appear in front of or behind the bars on the chart. Finally, we have a enhancement to an old feature that we had in our chart. So let me drag a couple of indicators onto the chart here. Let's drag an oscillator and do stochastics. So here's our stochastic oscillator, and let's drag a smoother. Let's try Kaufman's adaptive moving average. So here we have some indicators. Now you can right click and say push these dropped indicators into a new C# coded strategy window. So when I do that, it creates a new strategy for me on the fly with all of the code required to create and plot these indicators. So if I compile it and run this on a single symbol, for example, SPY, we can see the indicators plotted. And this was possible previously in build 10 and prior, but it was all done in the initialize method. Now we're actually creating variables here of these indicators and plotting them. We're creating the instances here in initialize. So now you can use those indicators in your execute method, so you can easily use these indicators in a strategy. So it's a jump start for you to get going if you want to use certain indicators in a coded strategy. This is a quick way to get them up and running for you in your strategy code. So that's it for build 11. We will see you next time for build 12, and in the meantime, see you all on the forums. Bye.